He's been bowled.
I was never worried about being criticised for being over-exuberant. I'd have been worried if people were saying I was under-exuberant.
Richie Benaud, an all-rounder with a natural instinct for leadership, would liven up the game with his ingenious spin bowling and spirited celebrations.
I can remember a lot of the ex-players thought that was awful. You didn't go around slapping one another on the back, but I wanted to be happy when we were doing well.
Oh, magnificent catch by Simpson.
And Brian Johnston used to chuckle and say that he supposed the next thing would be a bit of hugging and kissing, but we never got to that stage.
Now, the other thing I'd like to congratulate you on is the whole attitude of the game. You came here saying you were going to play bright cricket, you have done. Are you happy that it's gone right like that?
We've given the public as much good cricket as we possibly can. We've always tried, that's the big thing.
Benaud's brand of bright cricket provided a glimpse of a more confident Australia. But as long as Robert Menzies was in power, the country would struggle to shrug off the dead hand of empire.
I did but see her passing by, and yet I love her till I die.
There was a long period of Conservative government in Australia from 1949 to 1972. The country had been effectively run, but not particularly imaginatively run. And there was a pent-up desire in Australian society for change.
Time for freedom, time for moving, it's time to be free, yes it's time.
The election of Gough Whitlam in 1972 ushered in a new era of national pride and assertiveness in Australia.
What Australia is trying to do is to establish an independent identity in the world. Our actions are in no way anti-British. They're simply pro-Australian.
After decades of following Britain's lead, Australians began to discover their own identity, embracing homegrown heroes like comedian Paul Hogan.
I've never had any trouble getting sailors to talk. I've had trouble getting them to shut up, that's all.
Hogan represented the typical Aussie larrikin, a lovable rogue with a fondness for beer and Sheilas that much of Australia had once been too embarrassed to acknowledge.
It's so long been a colony out here, and they've had this hang-up about being descended from the convicts and all that sort of thing, that they're sort of ashamed of people like me to a certain extent. But suddenly they've grown out of that. They realise it's a big place now and they stand on their own feet, and they don't need help off anybody. You know, it might be the other way around. I think England in a couple of years' time probably need help off us. You know, we'll help you out, yours. Well, I think you should all get together, get into this, make up a bundle, and send it over to Britain. I've also dropped in here the old Don Bradman book on how to play cricket. I need a few lessons.
If anyone was going to give England a lesson, it was Australia's new captain, Ian Chappell, a player who combined the brash appeal of Paul Hogan with the inspirational leadership of Gough Whitlam.
It's 4 runs. It's a nice shot.
This whole upbringing was about aggressive batsmanship. And so that really moulded my style.
Chappell would use the hook shot to stamp his authority on England's bowlers in the 1972 Ashes.
And he goes for the hook.
To me, the hook shot was never just about the number of runs you scored from it.
So the bouncer hooked away again beautifully for yet another 4.
It was also about the psychological advantages that you could gain from playing the hook shot.
That's a fine shot.
And I always felt that someone in the top order had to take on the fast bowlers and hook them.
Ian Chappell.
So that you established, okay, you might want to bowl some bouncers at us, but you do it at a risk.
That's the hook shot, and he's middled that one all right. So still accepting the challenge is Ian Chappell.
Chappell's Australia set out to prove England's tabloid doubters wrong in the 72 Ashes series.
We had a manager, Ray Steele, who was a very competitive guy, and he reads out these headlines. Aussies take it lying down. And he thumped the table and he said, "Pig's bloody arse they do."
It was a rallying cry that inspired Ian's brother, Greg Chappell.
Here's D'Oliveira to Greg Chappell. It's a fine shot, and he needn't run for that. Off the back foot, sweetly timed, 4 runs.
We were bullish, we were aggressive, we were confident in our own abilities, and we went out there and we played to win.
That's it, pushed away, no bother at all. Look at Marsh, look at Sheehan, absolutely delighted, joyous Australians up on their balcony.
The Chappell gang that blazed a trail in the 70s boasted a bowling partnership famed for terrorising batsmen from both ends of the pitch. Dennis Lillee and Jeff Thompson.
Oh, and he's out.
I'm trying to scare him, trying to probably hurt him more than anything else, so that he at least knows you're around.
Well done, Alvaro. None of the Pommies can run as quick as this thing.
It was really, really quick. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to say. You sound like like you're bragging, but I know it was. I know what I did.
Thompson to Lloyd. And hit badly there that time.
Lillee and Thompson had learned to use their pace to get the ball to bounce high off hard Australian wickets, a delivery known as a bouncer that struck fear into batsmen wearing little protection.
It's another bouncer. That's quite a performance to get one so high on this pitch.
It's a short ball and generally around somewhere in the middle of the pitch. But it's aimed to be up here, you know, around your throat sort of thing, so it's awkward. You can't play the shot, and if somebody plays it, they're trying to defend themselves more than anything.
Even after bodyline, there was nothing in the rules to prevent bowling at the batsman's body. It was up to him to get out of the way.
You bowl a bouncer, make sure you hit somebody. You miss, I hit, and then it hurts.
There's no doubt that those two together were as formidable a pace attack as I'd ever bumped into. And Derek Underwood came out to bat, and he said to me, well, you know, what do you reckon? And I said, mate, it's a straightforward question of fighting for your life.
Thompson bowling to Greg.
Oh, bowled him. Yorked him, leg stump.
They would have been nervous. Don't worry, I could see they were nervous. And the opposition, as I walked back to my mark, they were there, well, the ones that were waiting to come in, lined up. I just used to look at them and say, you're next.
They were terrific to handle, and you know, I mean, the sign they had here at the SCG during 74-5 Ashes series. What was it? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If Lillee don't get you, Tomo must. It was that summed it up.
The crowd who cheered on Australia saw themselves in players like Lillee and Tomo. The fans were fellow larrikins, well acquainted with Mr. Booze.
Mr. Booze, oh Mr. Booze.
Matter. Got enough, have you?
Yeah.
How many are you taking in?
A dozen.
A dozen. Is that all you need for the day?
Yeah.
Mischief maker, Mr. Booze.
So it was just jam-packed, the atmosphere was electric, they were allowed to bring their own alcohol in.
You got enough for the day then, have you?
Oh, yeah, we got enough. Nice hot day. See you later.
Thank you.
So they'd bring in eskies, you know, absolute giant eskies full of booze and be on it all day. So, you know, by lunchtime they were starting to hum.